And I'm back. I'm going to wait for enough of you guys to come back as well. Yeah, round 2. I'm back over here. Well, Rusty Shackleford, you didn't really miss a whole lot. Just a bunch of arguing. And some good storytelling, actually. But you can always go back and watch the first video. It's up on my YouTube channel. Hello, Joshua. We're going back. So I had to take care of something real quick. Yeah. But I'm back. That guy hasn't given me any examples of what he's accusing me of, so. No, thank you. What was he on your case about? This is basically like these videos, these live streams, they're not really, I don't have any topics planned out for these live streams. I don't plan them out. I just come up and answer you guys' questions. That's why I always call it, that's why I'm calling these videos Ask Me Anything, because it's time for you to ask me anything. There's 6 of us now, so it's basically a party. So I'm going to try to read more of these comments from my videos here. This is all true. I keep saying this is saddening, but at the same time, this is a time to be alive for the history books. Yes, absolutely. We are living history. Truly, we are living history. Yeah, it's a pretty amazing time to be alive. It's interesting how in the Middle East they love reverb on their audio systems. Yes, in Middle Eastern music they love to repeat the same note over and over and over again. It's a nice form of just doing a melody. So this guy named Tom, he's been trying to argue with me. He's always posting comments about, oh, Islam this and Islam that. And he says, by your own logic, you cannot call yourself an American. Why? This guy says, I can't call myself an American because I said that nationalism has its dangers, or what? I don't know. Would you ever debate Vaush? Sure. It depends on the subject, though. I mean, there's certain things that if you're really into a particular subject, then yeah, you could definitely debate for your position regarding that subject. But if it's just over anything, no, I don't like debates where it's just anything goes and the conversation can be diverted to whatever direction the arguers move it to. I like to debate a particular subject or a set of particular subjects. I don't know why you keep. I don't know. I think this is the second time you asked me this question, and I'm pretty sure I answered you. So, hi Ted, great articles. mainstream media doesn't have a monopoly anymore. So many issues, if you only follow the mainstream narrative, you'd be lost without context. You know, when I hear this sort of thing about MSM and mainstream media, the question I always have is, how does this person get his news? How do you get your news? That's the question I have for you. How do you get your news? Are you getting it from who? Who you're getting it from? Somebody with a camera? If that's the case, then you're not really getting the news adequately. You're getting one perspective from someone who's in one particular situation, but you're not getting the full picture. I think it's always great to, when you're researching a particular news story or current event, it's always good to go to multiple different websites and read different articles on that particular event or that particular situation, not because those websites are wrong, but because websites are going to give you, one particular website is going to have details that other websites may not have. But nonetheless, they're all reputable sources. News is the Tower of Babel. Could you prove that? I mean, I've been hearing these sorts of accusations my whole life. I've been hearing this is the mark of the beast, and this is the Tower of Babel, and this is the Antichrist, and it's never come up. It's never been true. Do you think supernatural powers that some people have in this world came from God or demon? Again, it depends on what this person is saying. You have to look at what this person is saying. There's some people who will say, it's like if some people were saying, you know, that Allah is God, is the true God, and the Trinity is false, and they can make fire fall from heaven. I mean, are you going to believe them? The magicians of Pharaoh were able to do supernatural things. See, one thing about the demonic realm is that it's made up of angels. Albeit they're fallen angels, but they're still angels. They have supernatural capabilities. And when, Satan, he wanted to take the place of God. And so in wanting to take the place of God, he most definitely would create religions that are similar in appearance to the religion of God, to the faith of God. So the fallen angels, they're going to have their own priesthood. They're going to have their own set of rules. They're going to have all these sorts of characteristics of religion that you would find in the faith of God. It doesn't make them true, but what it does mean is that Satan has taken the system of God and corrupted it. So Satan is going to have his own priesthood. And that's why when you read up on, for example, occult literature, you'll find that they have very, very, very just tedious and grueling and exhausting rituals for occultists to do that involves fasting, that involves saying a multitude of prayers. And fasting and prayer is found in Christianity. But the reason why you find it in the religion of Satan is because Satan was an angel of God at one point in time. He was an angel of the Lord, but he rebelled. He wanted to do a revolution. So in making his own religion, he's going to have trappings similar to those that you would see in Christianity. No more news. Baby Lon B, The Onion, The Stranger. Oh, come on, you're joking right now. Yeah, okay, you're kidding. It's like if you hear a story from different places and perspectives, it's easier to piece together the truth. Yeah, you have a better understanding of what you're reading about. Do you think that AI will be the problem? I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Do you think AI will be the modern Tower of Babel, a sort of man making their own intelligent creation? No. I don't think man will ever create something that's intelligent. I don't think mankind's ever going to create a machine with a subconscious. A guy who used to write for us, Andrew Biazad, he actually believed this, and him and I would argue this. And he really believed that at one point in time, in one point in the future, you'll have a machine that'll be able to be possessed by demons or something. And it's like, if you really want to argue that point, you're literally stating that man can be God. Because once you can create consciousness, then you're like God at that point, because only God can create consciousness. I don't think anything is the Tower of Babel, but did you see that they are building a Babel replica at the Creation Museum? No, I have not. A distinction needs to be made between natural and supernatural. Occultists, Freemasons, and Satanists reject the notion of the supernatural and only accept what is natural. Sure. Satanists, especially. I know that Satanists are more atheistic, but you have occultists who do believe in demons and angels, and they believe in a hierarchy of spirits that they contact with. So they definitely do believe in the supernatural, whether they admit it or not. Okay, fine. You say that God performs the supernatural, but nonetheless, occultists do believe in things that are beyond the natural realm. A machine does not have a soul. Yeah, exactly. A machine doesn't have the soul. That's why I'm saying you have these Christians who are coming out and they're like, oh yeah, AI, they're going to produce the Antichrist. The Antichrist is going to be a giant robot. And it's like, no. Robots, they can't have souls. It really is that simple. Once you start saying like man's going to make machines, it's going to have the soul, and you're literally stating that man can be God. I feel like you give better responses to questions from males. I feel like no, that's not intentional. I mean, I feel like I've answered all of your questions though. I haven't heard you mention anything about either Operation Paperclip or Operation Gladio. Have you just lost interest? Oh, no, absolutely. I have not lost interest in those whatsoever. Absolutely not. No, it's just I haven't found the opportunity to bring up these subjects. But if you have a question regarding either Gladio or Paperclip, I mean, just fire the questions away. I'll answer them. Happily answer them. Nothing too difficult to believe. I mean, America took mass murderers and say, here's a 6-digit figure salary. Here's a nice house in Texas. Go ahead, live your life, even though you're a mass murderer. Did you know that the CIA has a department in Hollywood? I never looked into this actually, but I would love to learn more. I think it's a fascinating subject. I enjoyed you talking about them. I find them very fascinating. I have written a lot of articles on Gladio. If you go on shootbot.com, just type in Gladio, and there's a whole multitude of articles there. I will say though that the article that I've written on this subject that I am most proud of was something that I published in 2017. It was an amazing article. I absolutely loved writing this article. It was the most enjoyable time I've ever had writing an article. The name of the article is called, I think it's something like how the CIA or how the anti-Islam movement is basically a means to an end by the CIA and by Nazis and eugenists and all that. It was such a fascinating article because it was so beyond what you were hearing all the time. So we were constantly hearing about ISIS and Muslims and Sharia law. And then here I was writing about how all of the emphasis on Islam and Sharia law is for a greater agenda in many to a great extent. It was for an agenda that nobody was talking about. And that was to promote racism. That was to promote eugenics. That was to promote really this whole idea of anti-immigration. Now, granted, in all fairness, there have been liberals who have talked about this, but not to the extent that I have. And I'm not boasting about it. It's just the reality. Like, no one wrote an article as detailed as the one that I wrote on how the anti-Islam movement was being used to push for Nazism. And I spent about one whole month on that article, and I loved every moment of it. I remember staying up late, staying up till 5, 6 in the morning sometimes, writing, and it was wonderful. It really was wonderful. I loved it. I loved that I was in a state of flow, just a state of flow, writing and reading and researching and looking things up and learning new things. And I gave out just this whole history of the counter-Islam, the counter-jihad movement, and how it was. I mean, going back to its official inception in 2007, how you had Philip de Winter and these hardcore Eurosceptical European Nazis who were behind making this anti-Islam movement into something of an international movement. And then you found Philip de Winter in Catalonia supporting the Catalonian separatist movement, and how really this whole this movement towards breaking Europe apart, it's all interconnected. If you look at Brexit, if you look at Catalonia, if you look at the Eurosceptical movement, the Flemish separatist movement, they're all interconnected in some way. So that was something that I really just love to write about. Why aren't you studying to be a priest? I don't want to be a priest. I think that I don't want to be a priest. I want to read up on history. I want to talk about politics. I want to talk about current events. I want to talk about geopolitics. I want to do YouTube videos. And if you're a priest, I mean, think about what you have to go through to be a priest, and then what you have to go through when you are a priest. So in order to be a priest, you would have to go to the seminary for, I think, 4 years at least. So you go through 4 years of schooling. You have to learn all these Latin prayers. You have to learn something. You have to learn somewhat the Latin language. And then on top of that, you have to live in a seminary filled with perverts. I've heard stories from people saying, how they went to seminary and they left because they were literally being sexually harassed by the other seminarians. And then on top of that, you may not even become a priest. That's the thing, is that people think that they're going to become a priest just because they go to seminary. And that is bogus. That's not true. You can go to seminary and go through the whole rigmarole for 4 years and not be accepted. And you could be rejected by the archbishop, the diocesan bishop. I forgot how do you call it, but you could be rejected by the bishop. The bishop may read your work and say, I don't like this guy, which means that if you were to become a priest, you would have to learn not just the courses that they're teaching you, but you have to learn the angle that you have to take in order to become accepted by the bishop and to become a priest. So you have to learn, okay, the bishop of this diocese is liberal. So I'm going to write an essay that I'm going to write my dissertation, and it's going to have to be angled in a way where it can appeal to the bishop. Well, I don't want to do that. That's the thing. I don't want to write under the shadow of some bishop. I knew a priest who went through the seminary for 4 years and then got rejected. And then he went through the seminary for another 4 years and then got accepted. So he had to go through 8 years of seminary. 8 years. That's 8 years of your life just taken away. So no, I don't want to become a priest. What are they going to use with these AI is a form of perversion. People are going to want robots spout. Yeah, that's already happening, man. People want robot wives because they can't. They don't want to deal with a woman. It's just The bottom line, they don't want to deal with it, so they get robots. When I met Andrew, we talked a little about AI. He told me the people who work on that stuff say they don't really know how it works. Yes, I know. He always used to say that they don't even understand how it works. But it's like, how does that make any sense? Like, if you're a computer programmer and you make a program, you know how it works. My dad used to be a computer programmer. He can tell you. Why do you think that Jesus' first sign in the Gospel of John is the water to wine? Why? What does that say to us as Christians today? So water to wine, that's a very deep subject. I wrote a whole essay on this years ago. It's basically the way I see it is that wine is a sign of blood. Hence, Jesus took wine and said, "This is my blood." Wine is a sign of blood. And for example, it talks about the enemies of God being put through the wine press, meaning they're being slaughtered. So water is a symbol of people. So Christ making the water into wine is really a figurative. It's a situation that what's the term? It allegorizes what Christ is going to do to his enemies eventually. He's going to turn his enemies into blood. He's going to kill his enemies. That's the way I see it. Yeah, too good to be a priest. Thanks, man. I just don't want to become a priest, man. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And then when you become a priest, dude, do you really want to sit there and hear people's confessions for an hour? Do you want to sit there and hear some also, by the way, when you're a priest, congregants, you're always going to have congregants that absolutely hate you. They're going to complain about you. They're going to say that they don't like how you speak. They're going to say that they don't like your style of speaking. They're going to say that you're not liberal enough or that you're not conservative enough. They're going to say, well, why isn't this priest supporting this particular presidential contestant, or this why isn't this priest supporting this particular politician? They're going to complain at you, and you're going to have to deal with that all the time. What else is there? And then it's the fact that when you are a priest, you're going to be seeing things that are absolutely corrupt and shady and just twisted and evil. I mean, I've never been a priest, and when I was in the Catholic Church, I saw the twistedness myself. So what are you going to do when you, as a priest, see this sort of thing? Then you go to the bishop and you say, "Hey, this is such and such is happening." You know what the bishop's going to tell you? "Oh, shut your mouth." So now you have to say mass, and then you have to talk to people about how they should not fear to do righteousness. But then at the same time, you're living with the fact that you have just seen unrighteousness. You're trying to fight against it, but that the bishops are now going against you. So now what are you going to do? And then if you talk long enough about it, they're going to try to shut you up. They're going to move you to a different area. If you continue on with it, eventually they're going to strip you of your priestly your priestly authority. They're going to strip you of your faculties. So now you're no longer a priest. So what was the point of being a priest to begin with? I'm just going to be thrown out of the priesthood anyway. So I just lost 8 years of my life going through seminary, only to get kicked out of the priesthood that I strived for 8 years to become a part of. Now I'm back doing YouTube videos. Couldn't AI possessed by demons be like the idols that were possessed by in the ancient world? That's possible, but they're not possessing the robots. They're gonna latch onto them, but they're not necessarily going to possess them. There's a difference. What can we do to make the priesthood less pervy? There's nothing you can do. It's just, as the society goes, so does the priesthood. And I look at the priesthood as a down to up in a down to up way. So in the common denominator of society, you have the average folk, and the average folk have either tolerated Sodom or they've accepted it. And so what you end up having is a bunch of priests who are also tolerating and or accepting Sodom. So the first temptation of Adam was through a woman and was a fruit. The first miracle of Jesus is from Mary, who Jesus called a woman. Yep, that's correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I believe that the Virgin Mary will, in the end, will be the one to tell her son to go forth and make the nations into blood, the wicked into blood. And when Mary tells her son to make the water into wine, that was a sign of that. And I believe that the Virgin Mary will be a central figure in the end of the world. If you feel called to be a priest, best to marry first. Yeah, you're right, because when you get thrown out of the priesthood for doing the right thing, at least you'll have someone to live with. Eve's fruit caused death to Adam, and man, Jesus' first wine, fruit wine, blood gives life. Yep. Very good observation, Fadi. Fadi, you sound Middle East. I mean, your name sounds Middle Eastern. Where are you from? I'm just curious. Water to wine is foreshadowing Jesus Christ's crucifixion when a soldier spears. So yeah, again, mostly everything in the scripture has different dimensions of meaning. This is why you'll never really end studying the Bible. When you look at the water and the blood pouring forth from the side of Christ, water representing people, blood, his blood, I would say that is representative of the nations becoming one with the blood of Christ. Christ bringing in the nations into the fold of Israel. That's how I would see it. A priest is a hard job, but somebody's got to do it. No priest, no sacraments for us. Yeah, it's a very hard job. Not easy job. It can be very. I think no job is really easy. I'll be honest with you. I spent 10 days installing hardwood floor and tile, and it was exhausting. I absolutely hated it. Let's see here. Water is the sign of life, and wine is a sign of blood of Christ. Yep. Is pre-millennial? Oh God, no! Please, not these questions. Please, God, not the questions about premillennialism. Premillennial dispensationalism heresy seems to be popularized after mid-19. Premillennial dispensation. Is that like the belief that we're all going to be up in the sky? Yeah, that's bullshit. I remember years ago, I went to a restaurant, and I was talking to my dad about the rapture, and I told my dad, I said, listen, if God himself came to earth in the flesh and suffered, then who the hell are we? We are going to suffer, bottom line. And some woman walks up to me and she said, I'm not going to be suffering because I'm going to be out of here. And I said, if God himself came in the flesh and suffered, if the disciples suffered, if the early church suffered, then who the hell are we? She said, I'm going to be out of here. And she walked off. Long confession lines and few confessions times make me wish, yes. Yeah, I know. It sucks, the whole thing. You have 1 hour, and then you have like 30 people on a line, and then you have some old lady who takes the whole hour. I know. Because she's giving her a whole damn life story to the guy. Jesus, like Adam, was pierced on his side after they went to sleep. The Bible is amazing. Every story repeats from Genesis onward. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's that verse in Genesis that says, and she, the woman, will step on your head. Will step on the head of the snake. That's amazing. It's an amazing verse. The Virgin Mary will be central in the end times. She will be with Christ in the end times. I truly believe that. Confession to a priest is not biblical anyway. Okay. We have one of those. You're. I mean, I respect you as a person, but you're mistaken. That's mean they've studied at seminary just for the priest title. Priests could benefit from affirming they are human and sexual. Celibacy is unhealthy. I believe you. I think that it should be a choice. I think that if you're a priest and you want to be married, you should be married. You should be allowed to have marriage. I think that if you feel the grace to be single, then that's fine. I think that certain people are born with an energy that allows them to die single, and most men can't handle that because they don't have that grace, they don't have that energy. So I think that it should be an option. I don't agree with this whole idea of mandatory celibacy. I think that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Even the Orthodox understand that. Nice mustache, thank you. Let's see. I'm from Ramallah and Jerusalem. Oh, awesome. Awesome. I had a Palestinian friend called Fadi. Great. That's cool. But I'm American too, from Texas. Oh, you're from Texas. So your parents are from Iraq and Israel? Is that how it works? Common Arab Christian name means savior, one of Jesus' name. Cool, cool. The Cana miracle isn't a healing miracle or one of the redemption. Rather, Jesus' first miracle brought joy to a wedding. That is beautiful. Yeah, again, there's different dimensions of meaning in these stories. There's different dimensions of meaning. It's why it takes a lifetime. It takes more than a lifetime to understand the Bible. Pre-tribulation rapture came from Plymouth. Yep. Yeah, it's some weird Puritan invention. It's garbage. I don't believe in it. Paul pushed celibacy. That's where it came from. Well, hold on. Theodore, you mentioned monks or monasteries are weird places before. Can you elaborate? So Paul didn't really push celibacy. He said that he didn't make it mandatory. He said that if a man gets married, he has found a good thing. If he has chosen not to marry, then he has found a better thing. When I talked about the weirdness of monasteries, I will say yes, they are weird. I stayed in a monastery for a couple of weeks in Italy. The mother superior was basically a witch. One of her best friends was a Kabbalist master. These nuns would make the image of a 5-pointed star on the ground, and they would put little candle lights on each corner, on each point, and then they put a picture of a dead nun in the middle of the star, and they said prayers. It's bizarre, very bizarre place. It was a witch's coven, truly a witch's coven. And I remember, my first day in this monastery, and they said, "Oh, here's your room," and they took me down this hallway, and they hit the light switch, and the lights didn't all come on at the same time. They would all flicker, and then they would stop, and then you would just have steady light. But it was just like something out of a horror movie. I'm trying to be Christian first. Don't care about ethnicity as much as anymore. That's cool. What's the meaning of Ephesians 6:12? I don't know. I had to look it up. Ephesians 6:12. Flesh and blood. Yeah, a supernatural war against evil is how I would put it. Decameron is a whole book about weird stuff that took place in monastery. Really? Hold on, I gotta look this up. This sounds fascinating. The Decameron. Oh, I think I have this book. It was Boccaccio that dubbed Dante Alighieri's comedy is a collection of novellas by the 14th century Italian author Giovanni Boccaccio. The book is structured as a framed story containing 100 tales told by a group of 7 young women and 3 young men. Oh, I have this book. I never finished it, though. I just read the beginning where he talks about the Black Death. Tales of wit, practical jokes, and life lessons contribute to the mosaic. In addition to its literary value and widespread influence, it provides a document of life at the time, written in the vernacular of the Florentine language. It is considered a masterpiece of classical early Italian prose. Okay, now you've convinced me that I need to finish it. Have you read The Nun by Denise Diderot? I've heard of it. Isn't it? Doesn't the nun become a lesbian in that book? I need to look into it. The Nun. It's like the precursor to the horror movie, which was a terrible movie, by the way. Terrible film. I hated that movie. Suzanne Simonin is an intelligent and sensitive 16-year-old French girl who was forced against her will into a Catholic convent by her parents. Interesting. Sounds like a giant scandal. Well, Paul was influenced by empire ideals and Gnosticism, so that's where the whole Puritan... No, come on, stop it. Just stop it. Now you're getting into heresy. You're getting into Gnostic heresy now. May we be called together in the Holy Apostolic Catholic Church. Amen. Do you believe in sovereign nations? Yes. Of course I believe in sovereign nations. I don't believe in I don't believe in putting the nation before God. I think that's one of the big issues with nationalism, is that it puts the nation before God in many ways. Nations and countries are the Tower of Babel. It's nations that are together worshiping pagan deities. So if you read Genesis chapter 10, it gets into the different nations and the languages that they spoke. And then when you go into Genesis chapter 11, it talks about this Tower of Babel that the people in Shinar want to build. And when you look at the Hebrew language that's used in the book of Genesis, it's obvious that they're talking about creating a temple tower that's dedicated to astral deities and gods. And so God completely destroys the plan. And the way I look at it is that you had all these different nations, you had different people living in different parts of the world, specifically in the Mediterranean, in North Africa, and in Ethiopia, the Middle East. But many of these people were basically gravitated towards Shinar, just like Muslims are to Mecca. So that's the way I look at it. I think that the Tower of Babel was a bunch of nations dedicated to a pagan temple. And if there's anything that really shows us what Babel, or gives us really an idea of how Babel must have looked like, it's the Kaaba and Mecca. A bunch of people from different parts of the world speaking one language, even though they speak their own native languages. Chechen speak Chechen. People in Bosnia speak Bosnian, or the Balkan language. People in Turkey speak Turkish. People in Central Asia speak Turkish as well. Muslims in Africa, they speak their own languages. Muslims in the Middle East, they speak Arabic, but they're all united by one language. If you don't acknowledge Paul's other influences, you aren't looking at the whole context of empire. Yeah, but again, Paul wasn't really... Okay, hold on. What's your opinion on new man in the Bible? I'm going to get to your question. I just forgot. I don't want to skip these other questions. What's your opinion on new man in the Bible? What's my opinion on the new man? I would say it's transcending your flesh, really. That's really the biggest thing. Becoming a new person in Christ. I mean, it's the struggle that we all have to go through. If you don't acknowledge Pole's other influences, you're not looking at the whole context of empire. Okay, could you kind of show me evidence of this? Show me evidence that Pole was interested in pushing Gnosticism. And what does that have to do with empire? Have you seen in the name of the Rose movie with Sean Connery? It takes place in a monastery. I have not seen this film. Let me look it up real quick. I think Sean Connery is one of the best actors ever. Sean Connery. Name of the Rose. Jacques Annaud. Deadly Mystery in a Medieval Abbey, and Christian Slater. That sounds interesting. I'll have to look into it. The film did poorly at the box office in the United States. It played at 176 theaters and grossed $7.2 million on a $17 million budget. Man, it didn't even make any profit. Roger Ebert gave the film 2.5 stars out of a possible 4, writing, "What we have here is the setup for a wonderful movie. What we get is a very confused story. It's all inspiration and no discipline." I don't think people have any idea how difficult it is to make a good story. I think it's extremely difficult. Good night, Sizu. Are you Finnish, by the way? It's a good movie. Okay, I'll have to check it out. The Name of the Rose is a great movie. The book, of course, is even better. You must be an avid reader of novels, because I notice you talk a lot about literature. But where do you get the time to read all these novels, though? That's the question I have for you. Would you consider Sam Harris as being a part of the counter jihad? Yeah, I would say Sam Harris is right up there. He was a big voice in the counter jihad movement. He was talking about terrorism and jihad and killing terrorists also. Just came in. Which Catholic country in history do you think came closest to a perfect Catholic country? None of them. I would say probably the country that really, or countries, I should say, that really rose up. Probably, I would say the Syrian Christian kingdom. It was the very first. The kingdom of Edessa, the Syrian kingdom of Edessa, was pretty good. It was the first kingdom to really make Christianity its official religion. And then and the king himself actually was alive in the time of Christ, and he had this terrible sickness, and then Christ healed him through a letter, and that letter was preserved as a holy relic, as a holy object within the kingdom of Edessa, and the Persians tried to invade Edessa, and the Christians defeated the Persians, which is amazing. It's an amazing story. I would say the French, for a while, they were very Catholic. The Greeks also were very Catholic. The Russians were very Catholic at one point in time. They all had their faults. I mean, King David himself had his faults, but nonetheless, there was a lot of beauty in the histories of these kingdoms and these empires. Do you think the Antichrist will come from China? No, I don't think so. No. I don't see any indication to believe that. What do you think of the vaccine mandates? I would say it's kind of a tough question. I'm a little bit split on it, to be honest with you, because at one point in time, the United States. I mean, this is not the first time that we've seen vaccine mandates, right? It's not the first time. We've had this in the 1800s with the smallpox vaccine. People were made to take the smallpox vaccine, and there were people saying that it was the mark of the beast and it was the evil and blah 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 blah. At the same time, though, I am worried about the idea that you can't go into a restaurant unless you have this health pass, and I think that could set a very dangerous precedent for something else. So it could be in the future, well, if you don't have this pass called the compassion pass, the equality pass, which shows that you are tolerant of Sodom or whatever, then you can't do business with certain people, you can't buy certain things. And I think that this vaccine pass, it could be used to set a precedent for something much more malicious in the future. Let's see here. Just came in. Which Catholic? Okay, I already read that. So, Sisu, you are Finnish. I'm not saying Paul was pushing Gnosticism intentionally. I'm saying he's influenced by it because of his time and place. Yeah, but you see, you can't just make that argument. Just because you live in a certain atmosphere where certain ideologies are taught doesn't mean you're automatically going to be pushing it, or you're automatically going to be influenced by it. I mean, I live in a place, I live in America, where we live in a society that's highly influenced by all sorts of things, but doesn't necessarily mean that I'm influenced by them. Dude, you need a Discord so you can have, yeah, I know, I have a Discord, and every time I did call-ins, my internet would shut down. I keep telling myself to get this thing. It's called a Stream Lab or something. Stream, I forget the name of it. But it's a program that allows you to do, I have to get it eventually. Have you watched old movies? Watch movies? Yeah, definitely. Braveheart's a pretty old movie. So yeah. It's an older movie. Haven't watched it in a long time. Interested in your review. Jay Dyer does well in movie reviews too. I was an English major. I grew up in Poland before the internet, so the entertainment was books and putting together of puzzles. Also, you have to read The Painted Bird by Kozinski. Painted Bird. What would you say is your? What would you say is the best piece of Eastern European literature, in your opinion? Describe World War II as seen by a boy, either HC or Jewish stray, wandering about. Jerzy Kozinski, born Yosef Levenkoft. Interesting. He survived the Holocaust, and yet people say it never happened. What a bunch of garbage. Do you think that countries like France and Sweden, which are de-Christianizing themselves, are doing a patriotic acts because they are going against the good deeds of their I'm trying to understand your question here. Do you think that countries like France and Sweden, which are de-Christianizing themselves, are doing an unpatriotic acts because they are going against the good deeds of their forefathers? I feel like you're trying to trick me here, because I'm going to assume that in your paradigm, nationalism, part of nationalism is following the religion of your forefathers. So therefore, because Christianity has been in France for probably I would say a millennium, for 1,000 years or so, or close to 1,000 years, that French people are going against nationalism, or they're not patriotic because they're rejecting Christianity. I would not. Okay, maybe it was too harsh to say that you're trying to trick me. So I'm gonna rephrase that. I'm gonna reject that one part that I said. But I don't think that that paradigm is constructive, nor is it healthy in the end of the day. Because what if? Because I'm getting the assumption that I'm getting the impression that, in your opinion, patriotism is a great thing, or nationalism is a great thing. Okay. What if the religion of your forefathers was paganism, and then you convert to Christianity, are you unpatriotic then? I mean, were the Germanic peoples who converted to Christianity unpatriotic because they rejected Odin as a deity? Are Muslims who leave Christianity also, or sorry, Muslims who leave Islam and convert to Christianity, are they also unpatriotic because they're not following the religion of their forefathers? Like, I'm not too crazy about this idea that following the religion of your forefathers is somehow important. So, are they being unpatriotic? No, actually, I don't think so, because just within the context of France, since you're bringing up France, no, I don't believe that they're being patriotic because, or they're being unpatriotic because France, for one thing, is a completely different country than it was in the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, it was a Catholic country. It killed witches, for crying out loud. It was very Catholic. It wiped out the Albigensians because they were heretics in southern France. No, I don't believe they're being unpatriotic, because in the 18th century, France completely changed its political atmosphere. It completely changed its religious atmosphere. It came to the point where they overthrew the power of the church. They said that the church really has no place in France. The church was almost annihilated in France because of the revolution, and they made France into a secular country. They through bloodshed, they made it into a secular country, and they killed thousands of people because of their faith. I would say that the people in France who are atheist or who are not Catholic or who are deists, they're not being unpatriotic at all. In fact, they're simply following the legacy of the people who made France into a secular Enlightenment country. But even if it was unpatriotic, let's say that France never had a revolution, and you have these French people who reject Catholicism. I mean, I guess you could say that it is unpatriotic, but unpatriotic in the sense that they're rejecting the religion of their people. But at the same time, if the country changes to secularism or atheism, and people don't even care about Christianity anymore, but they're still like hardcore nationalists, they're still nationalist. It's like these Americans who are atheists, but they're hardcore Trump supporters. I mean, are they unnationalistic? Are they unpatriotic? Well, you'll say, well, America's not a Christian country. It's a secular country. Well, so is France. So I'm not entirely sure. StreamYard. Yep, that's the name of the program. StreamYard. Yep. Jew is yes, infinite. Oh, you. And I was talking about the rose, I think. Okay, cool. So you are Finnish. Yeah, I got the sense that you were Finnish by your name, Sisu. It sounds like one of those sort of Ugaritic Scandinavian names. Quo Vadis by Henrik Sienkiewicz. I'm going to look that up right now. Henry Sienkiewicz is a narrative historical novel written by Henryk Sienkiewicz in Polish. It tells of a love that develops between a young Christian woman, Lygia, and Marcus Vinicius, a Roman page. Oh, so it's a soap opera. It's like Rose and Jack in the middle of the Titanic. As a whole, the novel carries a pro-Christian message. That's cool. See, before film, people read novels. That's where they got their film in a way. Knights of the Cross by Henriksen. It requires reading in Poland. Lots of history there too. I just meant that because Christianity is the true religion and their ancestors fought for it, because they are undoing those good deeds, they are acting bad will. Well, they're acting in bad will, but again, it has nothing to do with ancestors, because if you, the Europeans who converted to Christianity, the first converts in Europe to Christianity, were also being contrary to their ancestors. I mean, it doesn't make them. I mean, if you want to call that unpatriotic, fine. But my question is, why does it matter? Like, what matters is, are you doing the right thing, not if your ancestors did it or not. But you are correct, and that I lean nationalist, but I still think every country will be held accountable before God. Okay. Do you believe that the Illuminati combined with the Freemasons at some point? Also, you are aware of the surviving letters that show George Washington was fighting the Illuminati during his fight. I have not looked into those letters by Washington, but I do believe that the Illuminati in the 18th century wasn't necessarily connected to every branch or every Masonic group, but it was definitely Masonic in its nature, and it definitely had some alignment with particular Masons. But it was a cult. I mean, the Illuminati was a cult. It was a very secretive cult. It was all about revolution, and it followed a lot of the same creed of the Masons, which was overthrow all the kings and overthrow all religions. Who Basic was a great film. But with mercy, also God may have in you wherever you are. Just got back home from working overtime in ICU. We are inundated with COVID patients again. Yeah, that's what I read in the news. I mean, how is the Delta variant? Is that a huge problem? You think, or no? See, this is why I posted articles supporting the mainstream position on COVID, because it is real. It's definitely a real disease. What is your opinion on Joseph McCarthy? I don't think it was a bad thing to want to purge communism from the United States. That's what I believe. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to have sort of an inquisition system to get rid of it. At the same time, I mean, I wouldn't want to see innocent people being falsely blamed or falsely accused of being a communist. Have you read The Shepherd of Hermes? Yes. Well, not really. I have a copy of it, but I actually never sat down and read it. I don't know. Maybe I just phrased the question wrong. I do not mean to sound like I'm promoting. No. I don't think you are. I'm just saying, like, you're taking a position that is common amongst nationalists, which is, supporting the ancestors and all that stuff. Not necessarily worshiping, but having a reverence and holding to this idea that we must walk in their footsteps. But again, how far do you go with that? Because I could take it so far and say, well, my most ancient ancestors worshipped Odin, so therefore I'm going to worship Odin. In my area, it is most all inpatients are unvaccinated. All critically ill in ICU are unvaccinated. Yep. What is your opinion? Yeah, I mean, Dennis, so Dennis, do you think, because you're a nurse, okay, what do you think about the vaccine? Do you think that all of this talk about the vaccine being dangerous is wrong, and that we should in fact take the vaccine? If you don't want to answer it, that's okay, but if you can, that'd be great. What is your opinion on Israel, PM of Israel, Naftali Bennett? I think he is a snake and just a political opportunist. Probably worse than Netanyahu in some ways. But he saw the opportunity to get rid of Netanyahu. He saw that opportunity and he took it, and he got all these parties to join him to overthrow Netanyahu. So he's a very strategic political figure, just like Netanyahu is, though. I think that Israel is just falling into this state of political tension, and eventually it's probably just going to explode into some sort of a civil war in that country. Delta Dawn, what that flower you have in? I don't know what you're talking about. The Verona papers prove that Joe McCarthy was right about the people. Yeah, I think that I think that there was nothing wrong with purging communism from your country. There's nothing wrong with that. Tadius by Adam Mickiewicz. That's like the most Polish Catholic classic. I'm looking that up right now. I'm trying to get into novels. I can't get my mind into it. Oh, I see. It's a historical novel. Interesting. I was echoing your angle in historical. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Interesting. Um, will you and your family get vaccinated? Probably not. I mean, I would like to get vaccinated, in all honesty, but have to find the time to do it. I think if you want to get vaccinated, go ahead and do it. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know why this is such a controversy for people. Why were 388 of the 400 Bolshevik revolutionary governments officially Jews? I know that a lot of Jews were involved in Bolshevism. I think it's because Jews are very rebellious people. It's true. It's in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. You could read it. Yeah, they love revolution. They love starting revolutions. They love agitating for revolution. They love inciting revolutions. They love just doing revolutions. So absolutely, yeah, it makes sense that they would be involved in something like that, and also that the Jews have a lot of Jews have a lot of hatred towards the church. So it makes a lot of sense. It's like Hilaire Belloc said. Hilaire Belloc said that the Bolshevik War was the Bolshevik Revolution was most definitely a Jewish revolution. I understand that people have concerns, as I did initially. However, the vaccine is proven effective and does prevent people from becoming critically ill. I favor common sense, and yep, I agree. I think people should get vaccinated. If they don't want to do it, fine. But I mean, I don't really see what the issue is. When it comes to following in our forefathers' footsteps, we should only go as far as the faith allows. I love my ancestors who were born in Plymouth, Massachusetts, but I will not become a Puritan. Okay, but then at the end of the day, it's about doing the right thing. Then it's not necessarily about what your ancestors did. What is your opinion on Vladimir Putin? Just a maverick politician. He's done some good things, but at the end of the day, he's a maverick politician. Theo, every time a bit of political or religious turmoil in a country, there's going to be a civil war. No, it's just that when you look at the history in Israel, there's been multiple voices that have been warning about a possible civil war breaking out in Israel, and it's happened before in its history. So, just like in the United States, I mean, the idea of a civil war breaking out in America could actually happen again as well. I had COVID, and I definitely had been way sicker before, but I am also very healthy. The biggest thing was the loss of smell and taste. Also, none of the people from my family got it. I don't want to take the vaccine. I think that I got coronavirus. I think I got it, actually. I think I remember I did a video saying, hey guys, I got sick, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, don't worry, it's not COVID. But looking back, I'm thinking, I think it was because the first day of me being sick, I had difficulty breathing. I felt this sort of congestion here on my upper chest, and it made it difficult to breathe. And it felt like there was a buildup of fluid in the upper chest. And then by the next day, it got better. And actually, it wasn't really much of a big deal. I've had colds that were much worse. But looking back, I'm thinking, I think it was COVID. I had it for about 2 weeks, really. But for most part, it was just a light sore throat. I was bringing some variant music to the stream. Delta Dawn. Oh, I see. That's nice. What's the flower you have on? Could it be? How nice. Do you enjoy living in Finland? Is that a nice country? Let's see here. Because of the conspiracy theory, okay, is the U.S. embargo on Cuba justified? I'm not entirely sure. I'm not an expert on Cuba. I'll be honest with you. Let's see. Don't come at me if you want to vaccinate. Go for it. I'm for informed consent. You want, yeah, exactly. What do some Protestants consider Catholics as non-Christian? Why do some Protestants consider Catholic as non-Christian? Because Protestants are pompous people. There, I said it. Yeah. No, it's because they don't see Catholics as really Christians because of the differences in interpretation. What do you think of the USS Liberty attack? Oh man, we're getting into this now. What do you think Israel is an ally? Do I think that Israel is an ally or an enemy? Israel is, I mean, technically it's an ally of the United States. The USS Liberty situation, I believe Israel attacked a naval ship and killed Americans. Yeah. Israel is officially an ally. But what people need to understand is that, like any other ally, most allies to the United States are not really, they're not really allies because they really like us. Plenty of Israelis hate the United States government. And Israel, if it was advantageous for Israel to turn on the United States, it would. Let's just put it that way. If it was to the advantage of Israel to turn against the United States and make an alliance with Turkey against America, Israel would do it. So yeah, that's my opinion on that. I don't really think Israel is just all, yeah, we love America. I think it's just that America is the big dog and we have to side with America because we'd be screwed otherwise. I mean, not the little flimsy paper printout they give you. We've all had it in that few years. Corona has been years and strands. Yeah, that's true. Corona has been here for a long time, but it's this particular strand that we were dealing with in 2020, and now we have different variants. I'm also against forced vaccination. At my job in the bank, they will likely fire us by the end of the year if we do not have the injection. I do plan on getting it, but not any of the current ones. Savonarola, are you American or where are you from? I like your username. Let's see. The U.S. is the military arm of Israel. No, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, Dennis, I would love to hear more of your opinion. I think that people need to, because I'm not a nurse and I'm not on the ground, but I've definitely read the news on the Delta variant. It's not good. And do you think, Dennis? Do you think that we're gonna be under another lockdown again? I thought he was talking about the USS Liberty attack that got us into World War One. No, Israel, America is not the armed branch of Israel. It's nonsense. Israel is so dependent on America. It's ridiculous. I'll just put it to you this. I'll put it to you guys this way: if America pulled off aid, and if Americans stopped going to Israel for tourism, Israel's economy would just shrink. Okay, yes, they would still have a lot from their electronics market or their medical pharmaceutical market and their industry, but at the same time, it's going to decline substantially. I thought he was talking. Okay, you guys say you're not Christian, you're Catholic. Yeah. Yep. Thoughts on Hyperloop? I have no idea what that is. Oh, Texas. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, last one from me, and I'm out. I know you are a big fan of borscht. Have you tried borscht with uska? It's like a little Polish ravioli with mushrooms inside. No, but I'm gonna have to definitely try it. Last year I made borscht and I made a side. I made it with a side of it's not pelmeni. It's the little Polish dumplings. It's like the pelmeni, but this has a Polish term for it. But it was really tasty. But I'm gonna have to look that up. Borscht with uska. Should the U.S. invest in bullet trains? Sure, I don't see why not. Get people faster from one direction to the other. I tried to convert a Protestant by explaining to him the truth about who Martin Luther was, and they responded by insulting the Blessed Virgin. Oh, yeah, I know. It's very common behavior. So I pushed him. Would St. John Chrysostom approve? You pushed him, like, physically? I mean, it's probably not the best thing, but I'm not going to condemn you. Let's see. B2, good night. Okay, good night, Sisu. Good night, Sisu. Hope you have a good life in Finland. Florida man variance is coming to the world. Yep. The local city I live near in my state just reinstituted mask mandates and looks like they're heading that way. If numbers keep rising locally, city will indeed lock down again. Hospitals getting full. Yep. Oh, you're in Canada. Oh, I thought you were. So you're Finnish living in Canada. Do you like living in Canada? Is that a nice place, or do you miss Finland? Tom Riordan, are you like where are you from? Are you American or what country do you live in? I'd be interested to know that. This is the first time someone's told me that they pushed somebody for insulting the Virgin Mary. I mean, I can't condemn you. That's our stream time. Okay. New Jersey. Okay, cool. All right. Good night, Sisu. I think I should actually get going. I've been doing this for how long now? About what, 3 hours? Almost 3 hours? Over 2 hours. So I think I'm gonna. You're an typical angry New Jerseyan. Yeah, East Coasters, they're more temperamental, I think. But people in the South are just kind of, I don't know. It's crazy people everywhere. Anyway, guys, I'm going to get going. I wish you guys a good night and have a great rest of your weekend. All right. God bless you guys.